Hello, whale community, and welcome to another episode of Makerspace X Whale. This is Rude Moose joining you today with the amazing Tara McPherson, who is an American contemporary artist exploring concepts surrounding the human condition. And some of the artwork that we'll be looking at today and some of the things that she's really known for is actually focusing on powerful female archetypes, otherworldly characters, and art that's inspired by astrophysics and nature, mythology, love, loss, and just good old life experience, which I think is one of the coolest descriptions that I've seen for inspirations. Looking at portraits that are, delving into psychological states and giving us a peek into the complexities of the human psyche. I think this is going to be a very exciting journey, and Tara has had an absolutely exciting journey, as noted, in all of the documentation that I've seen so far. So I'm really excited to introduce her today. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. I'm so excited to have you here. And I will say I was actually fangirling a little bit reading your bio. Uh, Specifically, like you've done so many things, and you were named the crown princess of poster art by Elle magazine, which is super cool, and have had music posters for bands, and your art has been in Oscar award winning film Juno. But the coolest part to me, and maybe it's because I live right down the street from it, is the fact that your art is in the permanent collection of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And like, that's such an amazing thing to have on your resume. So kudos
Thank
to you.
you.
I was just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Um, so, welcome to the whale community. And I know that you have a drop coming up in Makerspace, so we'll definitely be talking about that today. But one of the things that I think we generally start with is talking about the artists themselves. So, what initially started your journey into the art world? And, we've talked a little bit about the inspiration, but how do those things tie in and kind of help get you where you are today?
Well, let's see. I've always been really drawn towards the creative, and whether that was like doing little projects when I was like way younger, or like in apologies, um, when I was in high school. Here, I'm going to quit my mail so it doesn't make noises. Um, so, like when I was in high school, I got really into photography, and I always went to art magnet programs. I grew up in Los Angeles. And when I got to high school, I love learning, but I absolutely hated high school. And I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And so I took my California proficiency test, and started community college early. And when I went there, my first inclination was to keep going with photography and experiment with the art classes, but they were all full. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to college. I'm going to have to get these basic classes, like the three science and the three, whatever classes that I need, um, regardless of what college I went to. So there was this astronomy class listed, and I thought, oh, that sounds super fun. And so I enrolled in that class, and I absolutely fell in love with astronomy. I mean, like when I was in high school, I loved my chemistry class, and like I always loved like National Geographic and science, and actually, if you'd asked me in high school, I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer and like travel the world and take pictures of animals. um, but so I just fell in love with this astronomy class, and so much so that I changed my major to astrophysics for about 2 years, and I was vice president of the astronomy club. And so, kind of pursuing that for a while, and then I reached a point where I was working at borders in the coffee shop, and I got busted for giving away coffee and food to a friend of mine because they would trade CDs with me and then I'd give them free lunch. And I totally got busted and I got fired. And so my friend who had worked there with me, but got this job at this Japanese anime store, she was like, "You should come and work here. We need someone to help out at the front." And I ended up transferring, working there, and I ended up managing the store for years. And it opened my eyes to, all this whole new world of artwork that I had never seen before. All this stuff that was going on in Japan and in China, toys, video games, just really cool art figures, like more collectible figures versus like kid toys. Um, and that's when I started working the booth at like San Diego Comic-Con and Anime Expo. And then I was like, all right, what's really going to make me happy at the end of the day? Am I going to really want to be an astrophysicist, like, stuck in an observatory all night? Or do I want to be an artist and really pursue my dream of that? And then little did I know that I'd be, stuck in a studio working all night. So, um, but it really has parallels. And once I made that decision to really, fully invest myself in art, it was really awesome because then I realized I can so easily marry the two. And so I've been able to explore my passion for science and astronomy through my artwork. Now, it's not like the main focal point, but it's so fascinating to me even still now, 30 years later, that I'm like, wow, you know it's still stunning to me. And so I do incorporate a lot of that into my work, and especially with this new quantum dancer piece, you can see it's very heavily interested in science and astronomy and such.
And I think that is an absolutely inspirational journey, being able to find all of the things that really kind of lit that fire in you and combine them in a way that is uniquely yours. Like that, there's some magic in that for sure. This is really exciting to see,
Thank you.
how
Yeah,
you, how
in
you
a
use it as
nutshell.
and that's kind of the cool thing about art in the space, right? Is you don't have to, and really you can't do it the exact same as anybody else. This is something that you have to keep, kind of learning and gaining those experiences until you find the thing that fits. And it definitely seems like you've done that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And even like when I was in art school, I would say, I didn't really have like a style pinned down right away. I was super like all over the board, all over the place. I was really experimenting and just trying new things. So maybe to my detriment, where my work wasn't so cohesive, but in the end, by the time I graduated, it all came together really naturally, I think. And so, I might have taken a longer path, in a longer way because, I did do like 3 years at community college and then, 4 years in art school. So more towards, 7, 8 years to get my bachelor than the normal 4 years. But I had a lot of time to explore and experiment, and figure out what I wanted to do without like rushing or, making a wrong decision, like trying to do something quickly that I thought I wanted to do.
There's definitely a risk in making rash decisions without really doing that experimentation. Um, so it's
Yeah.
good to know that you're doing that or had done that, and this is where you've ended up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and we have another guest join us as well too. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You're Josh, yes?
Yes. Hi. How are you?
Doing fabulous. Thank you.
Good.
How are you doing?
Very good. Very good.
Good.
This Wednesday afternoon.
It is. We have made it halfway through the week.
Yes.
It's
How's it
very
going,
good.
Tara?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good. Crazy. Good. I
Yes.
heard parts of the story of your life that I've never heard before. That was really cool.
Oh, really? Thought you knew that.
Some of it.
Journeys are good for sure. And in looking at your art, so I had been scrolling through Instagram as an example, and we can see, a lot of, had been in your bio, a lot of the images are, kind of the female archetypes and you can see the power, especially, here, for example, it's very explicit. You are strong, don't pretend or play the game, don't be a clone. Do you kind of taking those extra steps, that's something that really resonates with me, having these examples, which are really great, especially knowing, that you're a female presence in the art space, presenting more of those female imagery and giving people an example that they can, kind of connect to. And
Yeah,
so is
exactly.
that something that you could talk us through a little bit more? Because that I think is really intriguing and great to see.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like, that's always been really important to me. When I was younger, so like growing up in LA, and I was really interested in music, and like I picked up playing the bass when I was 15 and just taught myself. And I would go to a lot of shows, and see bands play, like from basically from 15 on, and especially when you're underage and there's nothing else to do, we just went to all ages shows like as often as we could. Um, and at that time, so I used to go to see shows at this little venue called Jabberjaw. And that's where like a lot of bands from like Kill Rock Stars and Sub Pop and, a lot of like bands like that basically. So I'd be seeing like Bikini Kill and stuff like that. And the Riot Girl movement was getting really popular, well, well known then. And I thought it was just such a wonderful thing to, help women come together and to support each other. And, for women, like a new phase of feminism that, for me as like a teenager at that time really resonated with me. So like I would go to Riot Girl meetings and kind of learn about that. And, it really helped me feel empowered as a young woman that I could really do whatever I wanted to do. And so I think naturally that just kind of translates um, through my artwork, like as an adult, as a woman now, where I can, how I want to depict my characters means a lot to me. What are they doing? What are they saying? Even if it is just a portrait, there is a lot of power with a gaze and with eyes and with an expression, and that's kind of almost all you have with a portrait, and so the way it looks and the way it makes the viewer feel um, is really important.
That is such amazing perspective to have, to be able to share. And that's something that, I actually way back in the day during college written papers about, the whole Riot Girl movement and how that impacted how women and girls were seen and the music scene actually, and being able to gain more autonomy and freedom to be able to participate. And so here you have, we have
Awesome.
the visual representations of that too, which is, oh my goodness, so
Oh,
touching.
that's very cool to hear. Wow.
This is exciting for sure. And so with your art, I guess one of the big questions that I would ask is looking at these pieces. I know that, you've kind of ventured into creating NFTs in the metaverse, but what is it that you're creating these with? Because we're seeing, in the pictures, there's paintings, and I know some of it's digital. So what tools or approaches are you taking to create these pieces?
Well, this quantum dancer piece has really gone on a long journey, which is really
That's right.
awesome. Yeah, really awesome to be able to say because it originally started out as an oil painting, and it was shown in with Dorothy Circus Gallery that's in Rome, and it was shown in Miami during Scope. at the Scope Art Fair. And then, I've known Josh and Miranda with Clutter for a super long time. And we were talking about working on a new figure. And I can't remember how we ended up picking Quantum Dancer, but do you remember, Josh?
We wanted to, back up on Clutter just a sec. Clutter is an organization that's started by a woman. Clutter started as a magazine in England 20 years ago, created by my amazing wife, Miranda O'Brien. So working with Tara has just been an incredible experience. And, part of our mission is to really work with as many female artists as possible because we feel they're underrepresented in the designer toy world. So when we started talking about to the Quantum Dancer, when we started working with Tara and saying what piece can we make together, what would be the most impactful thing to do, we really focused on the Quantum Dancer image because we felt like it was something that could be made into a large scale bust and really be a female forward bust to compete with all the other busts out there in our world, if that makes sense. And so we just thought it was the most amazing painting and we wanted to see it come to life. So that's when we started translating into 3D. I'll throw it back to you, Tara. That's kind of where at a certain point we said, maybe we should make this into a digital work as well.
Yeah. So we had, so we decided to make a figure from it, from the painting, and then working with having that 3D figure. I, been getting into NFTs, for the past year, and I was starting with working with animators on my 2D work, and I hadn't had any 3D work done. And so this just seemed like, wow, this is something really cool that we could do with, the 3D sculpt that we have already. And so work with a digital animator, and especially with the holdups with COVID and stuff, the release of the art figure got delayed. And so, we've been focusing on this that you're seeing right now up on the screen, the new NFT, and working on that for a while now.
And that is super amazing because as we're looking at this, kind of watching, and we'll actually go back to the Makerspace page so we can see the audio that comes with it too. There are so many layers that are happening here in terms of, as you mentioned, kind of that 3D rendering, but also, kind of all of those different influences that you've got. You've got the animation, you've got, that throwback to, as you mentioned, your oil painting, and, kind of these different references to those topics of, the astronomy and the physics. We've got, the universe and just humanity as a whole. It's all wrapped in here. And to hear that, you specifically sourced talent, and collaborations with other female artists in order to add to the power of the piece is a really awesome thing to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, and actually, the person who helped make the music is Jenny Frazier, and she's a close friend of mine. So also a female musician behind it as well.
Let's see, and let's take a peek. I think I can. Let's see.
I know it doesn't tell that
Let's see if we can get it to load. I think I left it too long.
And I'm going to try and maybe I can share my screen in a second. I'm going to try and pull up one of the.
So we've got that audio link so that way the community can get the full experience here on the Makerspace side. And I'll share that link in the chat for everybody because this is something that I think the audio just adds to that experience.
Yeah, I love it so much. So, I'm a bass player, and my friend Jenny is a bass player as well. So this little clip of music is really bass forward. Of course, that's
Miranda plays the bass too.
Yes.
That's
But it's
interesting going back to that Riot Girl theme again, and how that was really a lot of how women broke into the music and the grunge scene and the punk scene was by playing the bass.
Yeah, very
That
true.
some fun music history there, but like that was a lot of there's a lot of history there that is just man, a little bit starstruck still. So with this piece, this is the quantum dancer piece, and this is the one that you spent so much time working on and collaborating on and evolving. And was this as you're transitioning into the NFT space, I guess what was the inspiration for getting in here and kind of rolling these out? How long have you been kind of transitioning your art into the metaverse?
Well, when I first started hearing about things, I guess was last January. And, when everything kind of exploded onto the scene. And I was really fascinated by it, because I've always wanted to push my art into more dimensional form and add movement, and animation to it. And it just fascinated me. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so fun and so cool. And it seems like, I can push the limits and take my art to the next level. So I immediately started working on, with an animator, working on a piece. So my first one, I dropped on Foundation, and that was I'm blanking on the name right now. Um, Stellar Revolution was my first one. And so again, another rad space woman, kind of walking through a cityscape. And so that was kind of my first foray into it. And I just love it. I love being able to challenge myself as an artist and of course experiment and try new things. And I just feel like the NFT world and the metaverse is like the perfect avenue for that, for artists to really push push their work digitally into this realm, where, especially with like the gallery and the museum scene, where 2D artwork has been viewed as, such like, the be all end all of things, and that digital work, maybe in the past was seen as like lesser or whatnot. And that now it's really coming into its, heyday, where it's like, wow, digital work is fabulous and can do so much. And really, the possibilities are endless. I mean, I feel like we're only, getting started.
I would definitely agree with you that we are only getting started. Seeing the way that art has always sort of, kind of led the revolutions and moved us, to the next phase of existence, and that's something that, as we're studying the past, we can see all those transitions through the art and kind of, where people were at and how they were experiencing life at the time. And so rolling into the metaverse here, and seeing your art transitioning into this space is a really great example of, how you can take something and evolve it without having it be constrained by the past and the history of what was, but completely exploring ways to combine things that haven't been before. We can see that with your piece, having the animation, the audio, the visual, like all of those things. Like,
Yeah, it's so fun and inspiring.
that is really exciting. And I will say, as I pulled up the Twitter, the community has latched on to your description here, and specifically the toy maker part. And that's something that I think Clutter had mentioned there. Um, creating these collectibles or the models and the busts. And
yes.
this is something that people are like, oh my goodness, they would like to know a little bit more about the toys.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've done tons of toys. With Kid Robot and Clutter and let's see, Martian
Metacom.
toys. Metacom and blanking Tominosuke. Oh yeah, if you're on my site, if you go to I think most of the toys are up there in the art figure section. Oh, I see. That's Cotton Candy Machine. If you go to
Machine. Okay.
yeah. If you go to sculptures, art figures.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then, sometime in the next few months, we'll be making an announcement about when the busts are shipping. So
oh my goodness.
we can definitely revisit this entire conversation
Woohoo.
when as things are starting to, part of the issue that we experienced making these buses, at first we were being very careful to make sure that every detail was perfect. And so we were sort of taking our time, not thinking that all of a sudden there was going to be a pandemic and a global production cycle shutdown. So we sort of ran what was a fun, meandering process, kind of like ran headfirst into this, like, well, everything's on hold. So we sort of took our time, not thinking that we had to rush. And so now we're just waiting for everything to really open back up in China, and the bus will ship. So everyone, keep watching the Quantum Dancer space. We will be making an announcement soon about when we expect them to arrive. And maybe we'll do a pre-sale.
Oh my gosh. And so now that we've scrolled through the toys section of Tara's site and we've seen the examples, we can now take the Quantum Dancer image that we're looking at, or this animation, and just kind of visualize how that will look as one of these busts.
Yeah.
They're really, really incredible. If you scroll around, there are some images that we've posted online of a blank prototype, but we do have really cool painted versions here that we haven't shown yet, that are physical painted prototypes.
Nice. And are those like resin printed, or
no, they're vinyl.
They're vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So those are fun. So that puts them in like the kind of Funko texture category.
Don't say that.
The texture, and I want to make sure that we can. I want to make sure that we can reach our entire audience, regardless of their experience with the collectibles.
There you go. Okay.
So, just because it has the same texture doesn't mean it's the same quality. And these, looking at, are most definitely the best. Like these art figures, look at those.
Yep.
Like so fun.
Yeah, they've been really fun to work on. Wow. What was that, Josh? My what?
Oh, I said your work is incredible. I'm a fan first.
Yay.
That's always the best. And so with your drop, so this is the one that you're doing on Makersplace, the Quantum Dancer, and that is currently has a reserve price and is live. And what should we be expecting with this? We're just waiting to hit that reserve price. Are there other pieces that will be coming out? I know that you mentioned there's, the potential for the bust later on. Let's talk about the drop a little bit.
Yeah, there's 3 editions of Quantum Dancer. So we have the main one here that's a 1 of 1, and then we have Quantum Dancer Black Hole, which is an edition of 5. I believe I posted, no, I haven't posted the full video of that yet because I was going to wait until the drop tonight, but that is animated like this. But I definitely posted like a little teaser image of a still of animation that you'll be able to see. Yeah, if you scroll to the top, I think there's a picture there on the right. Yeah, the center, the gold and black.
This one. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we have a teaser.
There we go. So there's the teaser that's dropping tonight. So edition of 5. And then we have a still edition that is Quantum Dancer Nebula and that I just posted the teaser of today. And that's an edition of 100 that is just a still image that I was able to work on even more. So like the animator took the 3D work and we worked together on the animation process. Then he sent me the file. And so I was able to work on this digitally and build out more of an environment and add more to the the aurora slash string that's coming out of, like, the dancing string that's coming out of her eyes.
Mhm.
So that's when I say string, it's based on string theory and how these particles, are theorized to kind of dance around and not really exist in one space because they're vibrating and they're moving. Um, and so that's kind of like a physical representation of that kind of melded with an aurora and how that kind of dances through the sky, and just playing with kind of like the energy that people that can have with their minds and their creative vision. um, and I was thinking about that a little more too, like for our interview today, like what does that mean? Like, when does belief transcend reality, and like how strong is the power of thought? um and that brings into play, like, maybe slightly controversial theory of like the power of prayer. Like, what does that mean? I myself wasn't raised with any religion, so to me, it's like a very foreign notion. But I have read books which kind of delve into the power of healing through the mind, um, by, like, people say, like, confronting and healing from like physical and mental traumas, and then all of a sudden, like, their body heals um, in many ways, and we've all heard of that happening. And so, with that, I do see a strong correlation in the power of the mind and our vision, and like what we can accomplish physically via mentally, or even like, what we could be able to accomplish in the future once we can understand and harness that power even more.
And I think that's a definitely a very deep topic.
Yeah. Just to
See,
touch
it leaves a lot
on.
of room to explore, right? Because it really, as the chat said, the consciousness there is a pretty big role in this, because, the thoughts that you have sometimes have the ability to create reality. And so that's something, looking at these pieces, how much of that, is because it is, or because you're creating or manifesting that,
Yeah,
and
completely.
seeing
So
the visual
yeah,
representation of that is really interesting.
yeah, pondering that, like, what if, and that, that's the fun thing about art creation is, I get to kind of, you know, take these ideas and musings and illustrate them, and paint them and draw them and think, like, what if, like, how would that look, and how could I depict that with artwork? That idea, how do I translate that idea and that concept physically? So yeah, those are just some of the things that kind of run through my mind when I'm making these pieces.
Which is amazing, because then you can take that a step further. And for the people who maybe look at the theories and don't quite grasp them, because say maybe they're more visual learners, then they're looking at your pieces, and that could pull those feelings or those concepts together in a way that text just can't.
Yeah, I hope so.
As I'm watching the chat, that seems to be a little bit of what's happening here. Is people are connecting some of the dots, and they're definitely feeling the vibe of the work. That's for sure.
Nice, awesome.
Exciting. Well, I know we're getting close to that 4 o'clock hour, and I don't want to hold you up because I know you have this drop later. So for the drop, you said there are 3 different options. There's the 1 of 1, there's a 5 edition, and then there's the edition of 100. And what time is that happening for people to be checking out Makerspace and support you here?
That is a very good question. I haven't gotten the final word yet. I do know that they're going to be screening them tonight at the NFTLA,
Oh,
at Super Chief Gallery. And the plan is to kind of like have them available for that. So I'm not exactly sure what time, but I'll definitely be posting on Twitter once they're up and live. Yeah, and so the one of one has the reserve of 10,000. The edition of 5 are going to be 1,500 each, and then the edition of 100 are $200 a piece. So a nice variety of price points.
Which is amazing, because that's the thing with art, is like, regardless of your budget, you have, the ability to participate and, consume or interact with the art. And so seeing artists be able to price according to those different price points is really, that's refreshing.
Yeah, thank you. And if you're not in the place to be a collector yet, you can watch it on my Instagram or Twitter.
Yes, because social sharing is huge as well, making sure that we're getting more support in all the ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, we will definitely, I know that I've given you the follows on all the things. I know the community has been really excited as I've been sharing the links. So we will keep an eye out on Twitter for when those go live, and be excited to follow along on this progress. Thank you so much, Tara, for sharing your journey and, a little bit more of your, you know, foundation of your art, because this is absolute magic and is something that I think is a great benefit to have you in the space here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was really awesome talking with you, and I look forward to doing it again someday.
Fantastic. Well, have a great rest of your day. Good luck with, getting these presented at the NFT LA, and also with your drop. I'm sure that it will go swimmingly, and we will be cheering you on.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks so much for joining Whale Community.